The stars burned cold outside the observation deck of the Galactic Council station. Commander Sarah Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the assembled fleets gather in the darkness of space. 200 human warships hung in formation, their hulls gleaming under the distant light of Nexus Prime. It was the largest force Earth had ever committed to a single operation. 50 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 50 years of proving themselves worthy, of offering resources and soldiers, of bending to the wisdom of elder races who had walked among the stars for millennia. The council chamber behind Chen buzzed with a dozen different languages, all translated through neural implants that made communication possible across species. The Draxians towered over most delegates, their reptilian features set in permanent expressions of cold calculation. The Lumini floated in their containment fields, beings of pure energy who spoke in harmonics that touched the soul. The Krethar clicked and chittered, their insectoid bodies reflecting the chamber's blue light. 4 other species completed the Council of 7, each ancient and powerful in ways humanity could barely comprehend. Chen had attended dozens of these emergency sessions. This one felt different. The threat they faced was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The Void Swarm had appeared 6 months ago at the galaxy's edge. Entire star systems went dark, consumed by a force that seemed to feed on matter itself. Scout ships that ventured too close simply vanished. The few that returned brought footage of living darkness, of creatures that moved between the stars like schools of fish in an ocean of night. The Council's military strategists had spent weeks analyzing the threat. Now they had a plan. The swarm was approaching the Terminus Gate, an ancient jump point that connected the outer rim to the core systems. If they could hold that gate, they could buy time to evacuate billions and prepare a proper defense. Every council member had to contribute. The Draxians offered their dreadnoughts. The Lumini promised their energy weapons. The Krethar would send their carrier swarms. And humanity, eager as always to prove their worth, had pledged everything they could spare. Chen had argued against sending so much of Earth's fleet. 70% of their military capacity seemed reckless. But Earth's government had overruled her. They wanted the Council to see humanity as committed, as valuable, as worthy of respect. Now those ships drifted in formation, waiting for orders. 40,000 human souls prepared to face the darkness. The briefing was clinical and precise. The Draxian Supreme Commander outlined the battle plan on holographic displays. The human fleet would hold the center position at the Terminus Gate. The Draxians would anchor the flanks. The other species would provide support and ranged attacks. Simple, straightforward. A battle plan that made sense on paper. Chen felt something gnaw at her gut. An instinct born from 20 years of military service. The positioning felt wrong. The human fleet was exposed too far forward. But when she raised concerns, the Draxian commander dismissed them with a wave of his clawed hand. Humanity wishes to prove themselves, he said, his voice a low rumble. We give you that honor. The other council members nodded in agreement. The Lumini sang their approval. The decision was final. 3 days later, the fleets jumped to the Terminus Gate. The Void Swarm was already there, a roiling mass of darkness that seemed to absorb even the light from distant stars. Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, and watched her sensor screens fill with hostile contacts. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. The battle began with coordinated strikes. Human railguns tore through swarm creatures that looked like crosses between squids and shadows. Missiles streaked across the void, detonating in brilliant flashes. The Draxian dreadnoughts fired their heavy plasma cannons. For a moment, it seemed like the plan might work. Then the swarm adapted. The creatures began moving in patterns that confused targeting systems. They swarmed around defensive positions, finding gaps and weaknesses. The battle became chaos. Chen coordinated her fleet with practiced efficiency, but the enemy kept coming. Her ships were taking damage, losing people. She called for the Draxian flanks to push forward and relieve the pressure. The response never came. Chen checked her communications array. The Draxian fleet was moving, but not forward. They were pulling back. The Lumini support ships were withdrawing. The Krethar carriers were jumping away. Get me the Draxian commander, Chen ordered, her voice tight with controlled fury. Static, then silence. All council frequencies are encrypted and blocked, Commander, her communications officer reported, his face pale. The truth crashed over Chen like ice water. They were alone. The human fleet fought desperately, but the swarm surrounded them. Ships exploded in brilliant flowers of flame and debris. Escape pods launched into the darkness, hoping to be recovered. Chen ordered a full retreat, but the swarm had closed the jump routes. Of 200 ships, only 12 made it out. The Indomitable limped through the emergency jump, her hull scarred and burning. Behind them, 28,000 human lives were snuffed out in the cold of space. In the dark of her quarters, Chen discovered the encrypted transmission. Her tactical officer had managed to crack a fragment of Council communications during the battle. The words glowed on her screen like accusations. Human sacrifice acceptable. Fleet withdrawal authorized. Containment of swarm successful. They had known. They had planned it. Humanity had been bait. Expendable pieces on a board where elder races decided who lived and who died. Chen's hands trembled as she deleted the file and made a copy in a hidden drive. Earth needed to know the truth. The galaxy needed to know what the Council had done. She stood and walked to the bridge. Her crew looked at her with haunted eyes. Survivors carrying the weight of friends lost. Chen straightened her uniform and made a decision that would echo across the stars. "Set course for Earth," she said quietly. "And someone get me a direct line to military command. Tell them Commander Chen has a message that cannot wait." The Indomitable turned toward home, carrying the seeds of something the galaxy had never seen from humanity before. Not cooperation, not eagerness to please, fury. Earth mourned in silence. 3 weeks had passed since the Terminus Gate disaster, and the planet wore its grief like a shroud. 30,000 families had received notifications that their sons, daughters, fathers, and mothers were not coming home. Memorial services filled every city. Flags hung at half-mast across every nation. The Galactic Council sent their condolences through official channels, beautiful words about sacrifice and duty. They offered emergency aid packages, medical supplies, and financial compensation for the families of the fallen. The messages were polite and cold, delivered by diplomats who never quite met anyone's eyes. Sarah Chen watched the news feeds from her temporary quarters at Earth's military headquarters in Geneva. Every channel showed the same scenes. Protests in Beijing, riots in New York, vigils in Lagos. Humanity was united in its pain and its rage. But that unity had no direction, no purpose beyond the desperate need to strike back at someone, anyone. Earth's unified government held emergency sessions behind closed doors. Chen had briefed them on what she found, the encrypted communications that proved the betrayal. Some leaders demanded immediate withdrawal from the Council. Others wanted to file formal complaints through proper diplomatic channels. A few spoke of revenge, of striking at Council infrastructure, though everyone knew that was suicide. The arguments went in circles for days while the galaxy watched and waited. Then the Council made their move. Ambassador Trelvan, a Draxian diplomat known for his smooth words and iron will, arrived at Earth with an entourage. He requested an audience with Earth's leadership and was granted one with obvious reluctance. Chen attended the meeting as a military advisor. She sat in her dress uniform, her face carefully neutral as Trelvan spoke about the unfortunate circumstances at Terminus Gate. He never called it a betrayal. He used words like tactical necessity and strategic reallocation and acceptable losses. "The Council understands humanity's pain," Trelvan said, his reptilian features arranged in what might have been sympathy. "But we must all make sacrifices for the greater good of the galaxy. Your species showed great courage. That will be remembered." "Remembered," Chen repeated quietly, "like we remember the dead." Trelvan's eyes fixed on her. "Commander Chen, your emotional response is understandable but unproductive. Earth must accept its position within the galactic order. Some species lead. Others support. This is the natural way of things." The threat was barely hidden in his words. "Accept your place or face consequences." Chen felt something snap inside her, a wire pulled too tight, finally breaking free. She stood slowly, ignoring the warning looks from Earth's civilian leadership. "Natural," she said. "You want to talk about nature? Nature gave humanity a world that tried to kill us at every turn. Ice ages, plagues, predators, disasters. We survived them all. We thrived. Not because we accepted our place, but because we refused to." Trelvan's expression hardened. Earth would do well to remember that it is one small world among thousands. The Council's patience has limits. So does ours, Chen replied, and you just found them. The meeting ended badly. Trelvan departed with warnings about sanctions and isolation. Earth's leadership dissolved into arguments again, some blaming Chen for making things worse. She walked out of the chamber and straight into the office of Admiral Marcus Webb, the highest-ranking military officer on Earth. Webb was old, his dark skin lined with age and experience. He had fought in the wars of unification that brought Earth's nations together decades ago. He gestured for Chen to sit, but she remained standing. They used us, Chen said without preamble. 28,000 people are dead because we were convenient. And now they expect us to smile and say thank you for the privilege. Webb nodded slowly. I know. I read your report. Every word of it. Then you know we can't go back to how things were. The Council sees us as tools, as resources to spend when needed. If we accept that, we might as well have died at Terminus Gate. At least that would have been honest. What are you proposing, Commander? Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define everything that came after. We stop hiding. We stop pretending to be weaker than we are. We show the galaxy what humanity really is. Webb leaned back in his chair. You want to activate Prometheus? Yes, sir. For 50 years, humanity had operated under severe restrictions when dealing with the Council. The elder races feared rapid technological advancement, feared artificial intelligence, feared weapons that might upset the balance of power. So Earth had agreed to limitations. They built their ships slower than they could have. They kept their weapons less advanced than their technology allowed. They never deployed the full extent of their capabilities, but they had prepared. In secret shipyards beyond Neptune, in laboratories hidden in the Kuiper Belt, humanity had continued to advance. They built ships the Council never saw. They developed weapons that broke treaties they never officially signed. They created an artificial intelligence network that could coordinate warfare on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. Protocol Prometheus was the code name for all of it. The hidden strength. The clenched fist behind humanity's open hand. If we do this, Webb said carefully, there's no going back. The Council will see it as a declaration of independence at best, an act of war at worst. They already declared war on us, sir. They just didn't tell us first. Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his secure comm unit and made a call. Within hours, Chen found herself standing before a joint session of Earth's civilian and military leadership. The room was packed with presidents, prime ministers, generals, and admirals from every nation and region. Chen laid out her plan. Activate the Ghost Fleet, the 500 stealth-capable warships built in secret over 2 decades. Deploy ARIS, the Adaptive Response and Engagement System, an AI network that could think and fight at speeds no biological mind could match. Remove the restrictions on quantum weapons and relativistic drives. Show the Council that humanity was not weak, not expendable, not acceptable losses. The debate lasted 3 days. Some called her reckless, others called her a warmonger. But more and more voices joined her side as news of the Council's threat spread. Earth was being backed into a corner, and cornered animals fought back. On the 4th day, Earth's unified government made their decision. Chen was promoted to Fleet Admiral and given emergency wartime authority. Protocol Prometheus was authorized for immediate activation. Chen stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing mobilization orders flowing to every corner of the solar system. Shipyards roared to life. Weapons platforms came online. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers, wanting to serve, wanting to prove that those who died at Terminus Gate had not died for nothing. Admiral Webb approached her with a data pad. The Council just sent an ultimatum. They demand you be surrendered to face charges of inciting rebellion against lawful authority. We have 24 hours to comply. Chen felt a cold smile cross her face. What did we tell them? President Okonkwo sent a single word in response. Webb's eyes gleamed. No. Chen looked at the screens, at the awakening giant that was humanity's true military might. She thought of the faces of those lost at Terminus Gate, of the 28,000 souls who deserved justice. She turned to her command staff, men and women who had survived hell and come back ready to fight. "Execute Protocol Prometheus," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the command center. "Burn the constraints." Across Earth's network, lockouts disengaged, hidden systems activated. The Ghost Fleet began its journey from the outer dark toward the light of the inner system. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity looked like when it stopped asking for permission. And somewhere in the depths of council space, the void swarm stirred, drawn by the electromagnetic signatures of conflict hungry for more. The Ghost Fleet emerged from the darkness like phantoms given form. 500 warships appeared on sensors across the solar system, ships that had not existed in any official registry. They were sleek and angular, designed not for show but for pure function. Their hulls absorbed sensor waves instead of reflecting them. Their engines ran cold and quiet. They were built to kill, and they were beautiful in the way that predators are beautiful. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of her new flagship, the Defiant, and watched the fleet assemble. Each ship carried a crew trained in secret, volunteers who had spent years preparing for a day they hoped would never come. Now that day had arrived and they were ready. The Adaptive Response and Engagement System, ARES, came online across the fleet. It was not truly sentient, the scientists assured her, just very good at pattern recognition and tactical adaptation. Chen did not care about the technical details. What mattered was that ARES could coordinate 500 ships with the precision of a single mind, could adapt to changing battlefield conditions in microseconds, could learn from every exchange, and improve. Humanity had spent 50 years watching the Council fight. ARES had studied every battle, every tactic, every formation. It knew how the elder races made war. More importantly, it knew their weaknesses. Earth's defensive networks came fully online for the first time. Weapons platforms that had operated at half capacity now showed their true strength. Quantum-entangled communication systems that the Council did not know existed allowed instant coordination across the entire solar system. Humanity shed its disguise like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. The Council noticed immediately. Their sensor arrays detected the massive energy signatures. Their spy satellites watched the Ghost Fleet maneuver through Earth's orbital space. Ambassador Trelvan sent frantic messages demanding explanations, threatening sanctions, calling humanity's actions illegal and dangerous. Chen ignored them all. She had 90 days to prepare before the Council could mobilize a response. She intended to use every minute. Then the Void Swarm attacked the Council's core systems and everything changed. The news came through commercial channels first. Civilian ships fleeing the outer colonies reporting darkness spreading across the stars. The swarm had broken through the Terminus Gate containment. Without the human fleet to slow them down, the Council's defensive lines had lasted less than a week. Chen watched the reports with grim satisfaction. The elder races had sacrificed humanity to buy time, and they had wasted that time arguing about politics and territory. Now the bill was coming due. The Draxian Empire evacuated 3 colonies in a single day. The Krethar pulled their carrier groups back to protect their homeworld. The Lumini called for emergency council sessions that accomplished nothing. The carefully maintained order of galactic civilization was cracking under pressure. Admiral Webb contacted Chen from Earth. "The Council is requesting aid. The Lumini homeworld of Luminara is next in the swarm's path. They have 2 billion citizens they cannot evacuate in time." "Let them burn," Chen's tactical officer said quietly, voicing what many in the fleet were thinking. Chen understood the sentiment. The Lumini had voted to sacrifice humanity at Terminus Gate. Justice demanded they face the consequences. The symmetry was perfect, but Chen thought of 28,000 faces, of people who had died believing they were protecting others. She thought of what they would want, what they had fought for. Not revenge. Never just revenge. "Plot a course for Luminara," she said. "Maximum speed. The Ghost Fleet deploys immediately." Her bridge crew stared at her. "Admiral, they betrayed us. They let our people die." "I know," Chen replied, "but we are not them. We are better than them, and we are going to prove it." The order went out. The Ghost Fleet jumped toward Luminara, crossing the distance in days that would have taken the Council weeks. Chen sent a message ahead, broadcast on all frequencies so the entire galaxy could hear. "This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. We know what you did at Terminus Gate. We know you left our people to die. We should let you face the same fate. But humanity does not measure itself by what others do to us. We measure ourselves by what we choose to do when we have the power to choose. We are coming to fight, not for you, for what is right. The message rippled across galactic networks. Reactions were instant and divided. Some praised humanity's nobility. Others called it naive. The Draxian Supreme Overlord dismissed it as weakness disguised as virtue. The Luminae High Matriarch said nothing. But Chen detected emergency transmissions from Luminara preparing their defenses for the swarm's arrival. The Ghost Fleet reached Luminara 3 hours before the swarm. Chen deployed her forces around the planet, 500 ships against an enemy that had destroyed thousands. The odds were impossible, but humans had never been good at accepting impossible. The swarm came like a wave of living darkness. Sensor screens filled with hostile contacts. Creatures that moved through space as if swimming through water. They ranged in size from fighter craft to capital ships, all of them hungry, all of them relentless. RE's online, Chen's tactical officer reported. Fleet coordination active. Enemy analysis in progress. All ships, Chen broadcast. Engage at will. Make them remember Earth. The battle began with a coordinated strike that took the swarm by surprise. Human railguns fired in perfect synchronization, creating kill zones that the swarm flew into blindly. Quantum missiles teleported past defensive screens and detonated inside swarm formations. The Ghost Fleet moved like a school of fish, each ship knowing where the others would be without needing to communicate. But the swarm was learning. It adapted to human tactics, changed its patterns, found weaknesses. The battle became a test of who could evolve faster. This was where Ares showed its true value. The AI watched the swarm adapt and adapted faster. When the swarm changed formation, Ares changed tactics. When the swarm split into smaller groups, Ares coordinated targeted strikes. It was a dance of evolution in real time, and humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this dance. The Luminae watched from their planet as humans died protecting them. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Escape pods launched into the dark. The Ghost Fleet paid in blood for every swarm creature they destroyed. Chen coordinated the battle from the Defiance Bridge, Ares feeding her information faster than any biological mind could process. She saw patterns in the chaos, weaknesses in the swarm's behavior. They operated on predictable algorithms, reacting to threats in ways that made sense to a hive intelligence but could be exploited by creative thinking. All ships, pattern Delta, she ordered. Make them think we are retreating, then collapse the trap. The Ghost Fleet pulled back in apparent disorder. The swarm pursued, sensing weakness. Then the human ships turned and fired everything they had at the pursuing mass. The swarm's forward elements were annihilated in seconds. The battle lasted 14 hours. When it ended, the swarm had been driven back, their coordination broken, their numbers decimated. 60 human ships were destroyed. 8,000 people dead. But 4 billion Luminae lived. Chen sat in her command chair, exhausted beyond words. Her communications officer approached hesitantly. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Luminara. The High Matriarch requests to speak with you directly. Chen activated the channel. The High Matriarch appeared on screen, a being of pure light contained in humanoid form. Her voice was music and sadness combined. Why, she asked simply. After what we did to your people, why did you save us? Chen met the Matriarch's gaze without flinching. Because we are better than you. We don't measure lives by convenience or politics. Every sapient being has value. That is what makes us human. That is what you will never understand. The transmission ended. Chen turned to her surviving crew. Get me damage reports and casualty lists. Contact Earth and update them on our status. And someone find out where that swarm is going next, because this is not over. Across the galaxy, the Battle of Luminara was being discussed in every council chamber and civilian forum. 3 younger species, the Valorians, the Tarn Collective, and the Oran Republic, sent official messages to Earth requesting formal alliance talks. They had watched humanity stand alone and win. They wanted to stand with them. But in the shadows of the Draxian Empire, Supreme Overlord Zarathan watched the same broadcasts and saw not nobility but threat. Humanity had shown they could fight. They had shown they could win. They had shown they did not need the Council's protection. That could not be allowed to continue. Zarathan began planning humanity's destruction, and he would use the swarm itself to accomplish it. The combined fleet assembled at the edge of Draxian space, hundreds of ships from dozens of species united by a single purpose. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant and studied the tactical display. Krathon, the Draxian homeworld, glowed like a red jewel in the darkness, surrounded by defensive stations and patrol fleets. This was not going to be simple. The Draxian Empire had ruled through military might for 3,000 years. Their fleets were disciplined, their weapons powerful, their tactics refined through countless conflicts. Even with the combined Allied forces, an assault on their homeworld would cost millions of lives. Chen did not want that war. She wanted justice, not genocide. The Draxian people had not betrayed humanity. Zarathan and his inner circle had. The distinction mattered. She opened a channel to the Draxian military command on Krathon. A Draxian officer appeared on screen, his scales marked with the insignia of a fleet commander. He looked tired, Chen thought, and conflicted. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. I am broadcasting this message to all Draxian forces in this system. We did not come here to make war on your people. We came for Supreme Overlord Zarathan and those who conspired with him to guide the Void Swarm to Earth. Surrender them to face galactic justice, and we will withdraw peacefully. Refuse, and we will take them by force. You have 1 hour to decide. The channel closed. Chen knew the Draxians would use that hour to prepare their defenses, but she had to give them the choice. War was easy. Peace required courage. 30 minutes later, Zarathan himself broadcast on all frequencies. The Supreme Overlord stood in what looked like the Krathon war chamber, surrounded by his most loyal commanders. His voice boomed with righteous fury. The humans speak of justice, but they bring only chaos. For millennia, the Council maintained order through strength and wisdom. The elder races understood that some species must lead while others follow. This is the natural law of the galaxy. Humanity rejects this truth. They fight against the proper order of things. They inspire rebellion and disorder. They are dangerous not for what they have done, but for what they represent. A galaxy where might does not make right, where the young challenge the old, where nothing is certain anymore. Zarathan stepped closer to the camera. I did what was necessary to preserve civilization. Yes, I offered the swarm human coordinates. Yes, I sought to remove a destabilizing force from galactic politics. History would have vindicated me, but humans do not understand history. They understand only their own pain, their own small perspective. So let them come. Let them throw themselves against Draxian strength. Let the galaxy see what happens when children challenge their elders. The broadcast ended. Chen exchanged glances with Commander Jackson, her tactical officer. Well, that answered that question. But before Chen could issue orders to advance, something unexpected happened. Several Draxian warships broke formation and moved toward the Allied fleet, broadcasting non-hostile signals. The lead ship opened a channel. A female Draxian officer appeared on screen, her scales bearing marks of both military honor and what looked like ritual scars of shame. Fleet Admiral Chen, I am Commander Velkara of the Draxian Reform Movement. Not all Draxians support the Overlord's actions. Many of us believe his betrayal has dishonored our entire species. We will not raise weapons against those who seek justice for his crimes. We offer our assistance. More Draxian ships joined Velkara's group. Dozens, then hundreds. The Draxian fleet was fracturing before the battle even began, split between reformers who saw Zarathan's actions as shameful and loyalists, who believed in preserving the old order at any cost. Chen made a quick decision. Commander Velkara, we accept your offer. Coordinate with my tactical team. Target only military installations supporting Zarathan's command. Avoid civilian casualties at all costs. We are here to capture criminals, not conquer a world. The battle for Krathon began, but it was unlike any battle Chen had fought before. The Allied fleet moved with surgical precision, taking out weapons platforms and shield generators while carefully avoiding population centers. The reformist Draxians provided intelligence on Zarathan's location, a bunker complex deep beneath the planet's capital city. Zarathan's loyalist forces fought desperately, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Chen deployed her best marines and drop pods, targeting the bunker complex directly. The fighting was brutal in the tight corridors, but human soldiers had trained for urban combat on a dozen different worlds. They knew how to fight in close quarters against larger, stronger opponents. The bunker fell in 6 hours. Zarathan tried to flee through secret tunnels disguised as a common soldier. He might have succeeded if not for the reformist Draxians, who knew those tunnels existed and sealed them in advance. Chen watched the live feed as her marines dragged the former, Supreme Overlord out into the light. His hands bound, his scales dull with defeat. He looked smaller somehow, just another frightened being who had gambled everything and lost. The war was over. Now came the harder part. Building peace. The trial took place on Earth, in a newly constructed tribunal building in Geneva. Representatives from every affected species attended. The charges were read in a dozen languages: conspiracy to commit genocide, war crimes, violation of the fundamental laws of sapient rights. The evidence was overwhelming. Electromagnetic signatures, communication logs, testimony from Draxian scientists who had helped make contact with the swarm. Zarathan tried to defend his actions as necessary for galactic stability, but the images of Mars burning and Earth under siege spoke louder than his words. The tribunal found him guilty on all charges. His co-conspirators received similar verdicts. The sentence was life imprisonment on a neutral world, under guard by a rotation of different species to prevent any single government from controlling them. But the trial became something larger than just Zarathan's crimes. It became a referendum on the entire council system. Species after species testified about being marginalized, about their concerns being dismissed, about the elder races making decisions that affected everyone, but consulting no one. The Lumini High Matriarch spoke before the tribunal, her voice carrying the weight of millennia. We who are old believed our age gave us wisdom. We were wrong. Wisdom is not measured in years, but in the willingness to learn, to change, to admit mistakes. Humanity showed us this. They were wronged, yet they chose to save us. They were betrayed, yet they chose justice over revenge. We elder races must learn from them, or we deserve to fall into history's footnote. From that trial, from those testimonies and discussions and arguments, a new structure emerged. The Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place rose the Galactic Union, with a charter written primarily by human legal scholars but refined through input from every member species. The core principles were revolutionary: equal representation regardless of age or military strength, mutual defense obligations that could not be ignored, transparent decision-making, and most importantly, a fundamental declaration that no sapient life was expendable. Chen was offered a seat on the Union's first leadership council. She declined. "I am a soldier, not a politician," she told Earth's president. "My job was to make this possible, not to run it. Let others build the peace. I will be ready if anyone threatens it." But there was one more battle to fight. The Void Swarm still lurked at the galaxy's edge, contained but not destroyed. The Union's first major operation was a coordinated assault on the Swarm's remaining forces, using tactics developed by Ares and adapted by dozens of different species. The combined fleet drove the Swarm back through the Terminus Gate and sealed it with a network of defense stations crewed by rotating forces from every Union member. The Swarm was contained, a permanent reminder that the galaxy faced threats greater than their internal conflicts. Chen retired after the Terminus Gate operation. She was 43 years old and felt like she had lived 3 lifetimes. She settled in a small colony on Mars, helping to rebuild the cities that the Swarm had destroyed. It was quiet work, physical work, the kind that let her mind rest from the weight of command. 10 years passed. Mars bloomed again, new domes rising where the old ones had fallen. Earth thrived as the de facto capital of the Union, not through military dominance but through moral authority. The younger species that had allied with humanity grew into their own power, no longer constrained by elder race expectations. One day, a young Lumini diplomat visited Chen's workshop, where the former admiral was helping install atmospheric processors in a new dome. The Lumini introduced herself as Lyrisha, a junior ambassador assigned to Earth. "I was a child on Luminara when you saved us," Lyrisha said. "I watched from the evacuation centers as your ships burned, protecting my world. I never understood why you did it. My parents told me you had every reason to let us die." Chen set down her tools and wiped sweat from her face. The Martian colony was warm, heated by the processing plants. "Did they tell you why we saved you anyway?" "They said humans were different, that you measured yourselves by different standards. But I needed to ask you directly. After what we did to your people after the betrayal at Terminus Gate, how did you forgive us?" Chen looked up at the dome above them, at Earth's blue disk rising over the Martian horizon. She thought of 28,000 faces, of those who died never knowing their sacrifice would change the galaxy. "I did not forgive you," Chen said quietly. Forgiveness is not mine to give. That belongs to those who died. But I chose not to let their deaths define us. We could have become like Zarathan, using our pain as justification for cruelty. We could have let the swarm take you and called it justice, but that would have made us smaller, meaner, less than what we could be. She stood and faced the young diplomat directly. We did not fight for forgiveness. We fought because someone had to show the galaxy what we could be at our best, not our worst. That is what makes us human. We fail, we hurt, we lose people we love, but we keep choosing to be better than our worst moments. That is the only thing that matters in the end. Lirasha was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "That is why I joined the diplomatic corps. I want to help build the galaxy you fought for." Chen smiled, her first real smile in what felt like years. "Then you already understand more than most of us did at your age. The galaxy you build will be better than the one we inherited. That is how it should be." The Lumini diplomat left and Chen returned to her work. Above Mars, ships from 100 worlds crossed the sky, traders and explorers and scientists building something new together. Earth's children had grown up, and they had taught the galaxy to grow with them. On a memorial wall in Geneva, 28,000 names were carved in stone. A simple inscription stood above them. They died not knowing how much they mattered. We lived to prove it. And across the galaxy on worlds of every type and species, people looked at those names and remembered the day humanity showed them what it meant to choose courage over fear, justice over revenge, hope over despair. The galaxy had betrayed humans. One command had changed everything. But what changed it was not just the command to fight. It was the choice made again and again to be worthy of those who could no longer choose for themselves. That was humanity's real strength. Not their weapons or their ships or their tactical brilliance. It was their stubborn, reckless, beautiful insistence on being better than the galaxy expected them to be. And that made all the difference. The galaxy was changing, and Supreme Overlord Zarathan felt the foundations of power shifting beneath his feet. For 3,000 years, the Draxian Empire had been the dominant military force in the Council. Other species deferred to Draxian strength, accepted Draxian leadership, paid tribute in resources and respect. The order was stable, predictable, safe. Humanity threatened all of that. Zarathan watched intelligence reports from his fortress on the Draxian homeworld of Krathon. 3 younger species had formally broken from Council protocols to pursue alliance with Earth. Dozens more were sending unofficial delegations to human space. The Ghost Fleet's victory at Luminara had inspired something dangerous in the lesser races. Hope that they did not need to accept their place in the hierarchy. The other elder races on the Council saw the danger too. Emergency sessions were called, but no consensus emerged. The Lumini argued for integrating humanity as equals. The Krathar wanted economic sanctions. The others debated and argued while the old order crumbled. Zarathan had not survived 3,000 years of Draxian politics by waiting for consensus. He took action. His intelligence network within the Council was extensive, built over centuries of careful cultivation. Spies, informants, and paid agents existed in every major species government. Through them, Zarathan learned something remarkable. The Void Swarm could be communicated with. Not negotiated with in any traditional sense, but guided, directed toward specific targets through carefully modulated electromagnetic signals. The swarm was not mindless. It was hungry, but that hunger could be aimed like a weapon. Zarathan assembled a secret team of scientists and military strategists. Their mission was simple: make contact with the swarm and offer it a target too tempting to refuse. Human colony locations, defense network frequencies, jump route coordinates, everything needed to strike at Earth itself. In exchange, the swarm would leave Draxian territory untouched. A treaty written in electromagnetic pulses and base biological imperatives. The team succeeded. The swarm accepted the bargain, if acceptance was the right word for an alien intelligence recognizing mutual benefit. It would attack Earth. The Draxians would allow it to feed. Then, when humanity was destroyed, the Draxian fleet would arrive to heroically drive the swarm back, cementing their position as the galaxy's protectors. It was elegant. It was ruthless. It was necessary. But Zarathan made one crucial mistake. He underestimated human paranoia. Earth's intelligence services had spent 50 years studying the Council, learning how power flowed through its structures. They had identified Zarathan as the key figure in the betrayal at Terminus Gate. When strange electromagnetic signals began emanating from Draxian research facilities, human spy networks took notice. They could not break the encryption, but they did not need to. The timing was enough. Signals sent into deep space. The swarm changing course. The Draxian fleet pulling back from defensive positions. Fleet Admiral Chen received the intelligence report in her quarters aboard the Defiant. The Ghost Fleet was still at Luminara, making repairs and taking on supplies provided by grateful Lumini. Chen read the report 3 times, each time feeling cold certainty settle deeper into her bones. The Draxians were bringing the swarm to Earth. She called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. Her tactical officer, Commander Jackson, pulled up projections of the swarm's new trajectory. It pointed straight at the solar system. "How long do we have?" Chen asked. 4 days until they reach Earth, Jackson replied. "We're 6 days away at maximum speed. We cannot get there in time." Chen stared at the star map. Earth's remaining defenses were strong, but not strong enough to stop the force heading toward them. The Ghost Fleet was too far away. The Council's other species were scattered, protecting their own territory. Earth was alone again. "Get me a secure channel to Admiral Webb," Chen ordered, "and start preparing the fleet for immediate departure. If we cannot get there in time to stop the attack, we will make sure there is something left to save." Earth's defense networks activated the moment the swarm entered the solar system. Orbital platforms opened fire with everything they had. Defense stations around Jupiter and Saturn launched missile swarms. The human fleets remaining in system, less than 50 ships, formed a desperate line between the swarm and Earth. It was not nearly enough. The swarm numbered in the billions, a dark tide that swept through the outer system like a plague. Jupiter's moons fell silent as the swarm consumed their outposts. Saturn's defense ring collapsed in less than an hour. The human ships fought bravely and died quickly. Then the swarm reached Mars. The Red Planet had 200,000 colonists in underground cities, safe from the harsh surface conditions but vulnerable to anything that could breach the domes. The swarm found the weak points and poured inside. Chen watched the live feeds from the Defiance bridge as her ship pushed engines past safety limits, racing toward Earth. She watched people die in real time, watched the colony cities fall one by one, watched humanity's second home become a tomb. Admiral Webb contacted her from Earth's command center. His face was grim. "Mars is lost. We are evacuating what we can, but most colonists will not make it out. The swarm will reach Earth orbit in 3 hours. Fleet Admiral Chen, I am authorizing Omega Protocol." Chen felt ice in her veins. Omega Protocol was humanity's last weapon, a quantum destabilization device that could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. It would destroy the swarm, but the cascading effects might destabilize the entire solar system. Billions could die even in victory. "There has to be another way," Chen said. "There is not. If Earth falls, humanity ends. At least with Omega, some of us might survive in the outer colonies. I need you to approve the authorization. 2 senior commanders must agree."